Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW's Full Gear post-show. Starting off tonight, man, we got Darby Allin taking on Pac. I thought it was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Allin and Pac, with Allin keeping the pace of the match. Pac hits a press slam on Darby, sending Darby off the apron to the outside. Pac then was going after Darby with the exposed burns, but Pac ends up hitting a brutalizer, or applying a brutalizer, but the hold is broken. Darby then applies a Scorpion Deathlock on Pac in the middle of the ring. Wheeler Yuta is here. He causes a distraction with the referee, which allowed Pac to hit Darby with the bat. Pac goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Pac. Hats off to Pac for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we got a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team matchup where the winner will pick the Tag Team Tournament Finals stipulation. It is the Sisters of Sin taking on Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne versus the Babes of Wrath versus Mina Shirakawa and Toni Storm. The match itself was a decent match, back and forth matchup with Willow and Harley keeping the pace of the match. Harley and Sky then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Julia Hart hitting an old school in the middle of the ring. Megan Bayne then gets involved by hitting a fall-away slam in the middle of the ring. Willow then hits a senton off the apron, while Toni Storm hits a roll-up, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. Hats off to Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we got an AEW Tag Team title match where Brodito defend the AEW Tag Team titles against FTR. Number one, I thought this was a really good match, man. Back and forth matchup between FTR and Brodito, with Brody King and Dax both exchanging in the middle of the ring, but Brodito were keeping the pace of the match. Brody King hits a running senton into FTR, followed by Brodito hitting a frog splash off the top rope. Dax Harwood then hits a slingshot powerbomb in the middle of the ring, followed by Wheeler hitting a splash for a near fall. Bandito then hits a press slam, sending Wheeler to the outside, followed by FTR going for a shatter machine, but Bandito counters. Bandito then hits a 21-plex, followed by FTR hitting a shatter machine. Wheeler then grabs the title. Wheeler then hits Bandito with the title for a near fall, followed by Brodito hitting a shatter machine on Dax Harwood for a near fall. FTR then get up, hit a Doomsday Device for a near fall. After that, FTR then hit a spike pile driver on Brody King off the apron. And then FTR then hit another spike pile driver on Bandito for a near fall. FTR then hit a shatter machine in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match and new AEW Tag Team Champions are FTR. Hats off to FTR for getting the win in this matchup. Moving off of that, we had the Casino Gauntlet match where the winner will be the new AEW National Champion. Bobby Lashley is the first entrant, followed by Shelton Benjamin. He is the second entrant. Ricochet comes out as well. He's the third entrant into the match. Gates of Agony, though, attack Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. Claudio Castagnoli is the next entrant. Claudio then hits a giant swing on Ricochet in the middle of the ring. Daniel Garcia is the next entrant, followed by Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy then hits a Stundog Millionaire in the middle of the ring. Wheeler Yuta is the next entrant into the match. Death Riders then attack Orange Cassidy. Kevin Knight is the next entrant, followed by Roderick Strong. Strong then hits an angle slam in the middle of the ring, followed by Strong hitting a Claymore kick on Ricochet. Mark Davis is the next entrant into the match. Davis then hits a pile driver on Kevin Knight, followed by another pile driver on Orange Cassidy. Speedball Mike Bailey is the next entrant into the match, but Garcia hits a low blow in the middle of the ring, followed by Garcia applying a Dragon Slayer in the middle of the ring. After that, Matt Menard is the next entrant. This shocked Garcia. Menard and Garcia both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Lashley hitting a spear in the middle of the ring, followed by Lashley hitting a power slam on Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy then gets up, hits an orange punch, taking out Davis and Claudio Castagnoli. Yuta then hits a running knee on Orange Cassidy, but Ricochet hits a spirit gun on Kevin Knight, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and winner of the new AEW National Championship is Ricochet. Hats off to Ricochet for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a no-holds-barred match. It is Kyle O'Reilly taking on Jon Moxley, and pretty much in a grudge match, if you will, a rematch from not Blood and Guts, but last week. The match itself was a good match. Back and forth matchup between O'Reilly and Moxley, with O'Reilly keeping the pace of the match. O'Reilly then applies an ankle lock on Moxley, but the hold is broken. Moxley then attacks O'Reilly with a fork. O'Reilly then is busted wide open, wearing the crimson mask, if you will. After that, O'Reilly then applies another ankle lock on Moxley, but the hold is broken. O'Reilly then attacks Moxley with the fork. Moxley now is busted wide open as well, wearing the crimson mask. O'Reilly and Moxley both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Moxley applying a chokehold on O'Reilly, but the hold is broken. Moxley then applies an STF, but O'Reilly then was hitting Moxley's hand with the fork. This breaks up the hold. Moxley then hits a foot stomp on O'Reilly, followed by a Death Rider on O'Reilly as well. But O'Reilly gets up, applies an ankle lock using a chain on Jon Moxley. Moxley then taps out, referee sounds for the bell, and your winner of the match is Kyle O'Reilly. After the match, Moxley then attacks O'Reilly, pretty much sending a message to Kyle O'Reilly. But hats off to Kyle O'Reilly for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we got a TNT title matchup where Kyle Fletcher defends the TNT title against Mark Briscoe in a no disqualification match. But there is a stipulation. If Mark happens to lose this match, he would have to join the Don Callis family. The match itself, I thought, was a really good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Fletcher and Briscoe, with Fletcher keeping the pace of the match. Fletcher and Briscoe both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Mark throwing a chair right into Kyle Fletcher's face on the outside. Briscoe then hits Kyle with a chair shot. After that, Mark goes for a senton off the apron, but Kyle Fletcher counters it with a brain buster through a chair. Mark then goes for a senton through the ropes, but missed, and ends up going through a ladder on the outside. Briscoe hits Kyle with a ladder, followed by Briscoe hitting Kyle with a chair shot. Fletcher then pushes Mark off the top rope, sending Briscoe through a table on the outside. Fletcher then puts Mark through another table, followed by Fletcher hitting a power bomb on Mark Briscoe for a near fall. Fletcher then goes to the outside. He brings out a bucket of tacks that he throws down on the ring mat. Briscoe then hits a fisherman buster on O'Reilly onto the tacks for a near fall. Briscoe then hits a blockbuster off the apron through a chair structure on Fletcher, followed by Briscoe hitting a froggy bow off the ladder through a table on Fletcher for a near fall. Fletcher then pretty much helpless in the middle of the ring. He is pretty much getting help from Don Callis. Callis then handed Kyle Fletcher a screwdriver. Fletcher then hits Briscoe with the screwdriver, followed by Mark getting up, hitting a low blow on Fletcher. Briscoe then hits a brainbuster for a near fall, but Fletcher then hits Briscoe with the screwdriver. Fletcher then hits a brainbuster of his own for a near fall. Briscoe gets up, hits a razor's edge, sending Fletcher through a barbed wire table. Briscoe then hits a J Drilla on Kyle Fletcher, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new TNT champion is Mark Briscoe. Hats off to Mark Briscoe for getting the win in this matchup and becoming the new TNT champion. Moving on from that, we have a $1 million tag team matchup where it is Jurassic Express teaming up with Kenny Omega to taking on Josh Alexander from the Don Callis family, as well as the Young Bucks. The match itself, I thought, was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega keeping the pace of the match. Luchasaurus hits a chokeslam on Josh Alexander in the middle of the ring. Omega and Alexander both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Alexander applying an ankle lock on Omega. The Young Bucks then hit a BTE trigger on Omega, but the hold then gets broken. Luchasaurus then hits a moonsault to the outside, followed by Jack Perry hitting a Hurricane Rana off the apron. The Young Bucks then get involved in the match by hitting a super kick literally on everyone in the middle of in the ring, followed by the Young Bucks hitting a BTE trigger on Jack Perry, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match and the winners of the money, if you will, is the Young Bucks and Josh Alexander. After that, we have Don Callis and the Don Callis family coming out to the ring. Don Callis says the Bucks are a part of the Don Callis family. The Don Callis family then attack Kenny Omega while the Young Bucks walk up to the ramp with Don Callis. Callis is trying to bring the Young Bucks to the backstage area, but the Young Bucks look confused watching on as Kenny Omega is pretty much getting his ass kicked by the Don Callis family. The Young Bucks then throw down the money. They rush to the ring. The Young Bucks then attack the Don Callis family. They're looking to shake Omega's hand. He slaps the hand away, but Omega then hugs it out with the Young Bucks in the middle of the ring. And it looks like we have a reunion here with the original Elite. Moving on from that, we have an AEW Women's Championship matchup where Chris Statlander defends the AEW Women's title against Mercedes Moné. The match itself, I thought, was a good match, man. Back and forth matchup between Moné and Statlander, with Moné keeping the pace of the match. Moné then hits a Meteora off the apron, followed by another Meteora landing on Statlander. Moné then, in the middle of the ring, hits multiple Three Amigos on Chris Statlander, but Statlander gets up, hits a Blue Thunder Bomb on Moné on the outside. Statlander then applies a statement maker on Moné, but the hold is broken. Moné then applies a statement maker of her own on Statlander, but the hold is broken. Statlander then hits a pile driver on Moné for a near fall, but Moné gets up, hits a Poison Rana on Statlander, but Statlander ultimately hits the finish, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still AEW Women's Champion, is Chris Statlander. Hats off to Chris Statlander for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have an AEW title matchup in a steel cage where Adam Page will be defending the AEW World title against Samoa Joe. The match itself, I thought, was a really good match. Back and forth matchup between Page and Joe, with Joe keeping the pace of the match. Joe hits a power slam on Page, but Joe and Page are both busted wide open. Both are wearing the Crimson Mask. Joe and Page then both exchange in the middle of the ring. After that, Shibata is here. Shibata then climbs the cage, but Eddie Kingston comes out to the ring. He attacks Shibata. Page then hits a dead eye on Joe in the middle of the ring, but the referee is out. Powerhouse Hobbs is here. Hobbs pretty much breaks open the lock, opens the cage door. Page quickly attacks Hobbs, followed by Page hitting a buckshot lariat. But Hook is here. He comes out to the ring. Hook then grabs Page's world title and ends up hitting Adam Page. After that, he takes off his jacket and reveals that he is once again a part of the Ops. Hook then, like I said, he takes out Adam Page with the title. And then Samoa Joe ends up hitting a muscle buster on Adam Page in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new AEW World Champion is Samoa Joe. After the match, you can see Powerhouse Hobbs and the rest of the Ops celebrating with Samoa Joe. But all of a sudden, the lights go out. And then on the Titantron, we see a house burning on the Titantron and Prince Nana standing on the stage. After that, we have Swerve's music hit. Swerve comes out to the ring and attacks pretty much I guess if you want to call it, the superstars of the Ops Dojo, pretty much sending a message to Samoa Joe. And then both Swerve and Adam Page are standing in the middle of the ring, staring down the Ops. Couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Full Gear before I get the hell up out of here, man. Number one, I'm not going to sit here and bash the show. I'm not going to bash the show at all. I think, personally, was it a terrible show? No. Was it a great show? No. It was an okay show at best. I'm going to be honest, man. And I've gone to the forefront and said that AEW's pay-per-views are probably the best thing going for AEW, period. Whether it's attendance, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's, just the overall look of the show, the viewership the show's getting. I mean, it's literally AEW's bread and butter. Always has been, always will be. But there are some negatives as well. And I want to get into that as well. I'm not going to sit here and say the show was entirely bad, but there are some things about the show that I did not like, and some things that I did like. For starters, I'm not a huge fan of the AEW pay-per-views going from 8 o'clock until damn near 1 o'clock in the morning. I think it's absolutely abundantly insane that these AEW pay-per-views are going that long. If we're going to run it from 8 to 12, why can't we start these shows at 7 o'clock with the kickoff being at 6 o'clock for the pre-show? I mean, WWE right now currently is doing exactly that, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. These AEW pay-per-view shows are entirely too long. Entirely too long. Other things that I want to talk about as well is, we get to the Casino Gauntlet match, and I know a lot of people want to talk about this, so I want to give my take on it. I wasn't against the Casino Gauntlet match, but I'm going to say this. Number one, was I surprised with the winner? No. To me, honestly, I did not think Bobby Lashley was going to win this title. Based on the premise of what the title was about and the fact that, according to AEW and the powers that be, this AEW National Championship is going to be defended around AEW, CMLL, Ring of Honor, as well as the Indies as well. Bobby Lashley, in the age that he is in right now, I don't really see him traveling all around the world defending this AEW National Championship, where Ricochet right now really isn't doing a whole hell of a lot on Dynamite. And I think the mindset going into this match was, okay, we're going to put the title on Ricochet to kind of make Ricochet important, even though there's no lineage with this AEW national title. He's the first ever champion with this title, or the first ever superstar to win this title. There's no lineage or history for the AEW national championship. So it gives Ricochet something to do, where Ricochet could go to CMLL, he can go to Ring of Honor, obviously defending on Dynamite, as well as the Independents as well, with this AEW National Championship. The other downside I would say with this, when it pertains to the AEW National Championship, I know there's been a little bit of hostility here in heat between NWA and AEW in regards of this AEW National Championship title. You had the AEW National Championship, a champion, I believe his name is Mike Mundo or something like that, who has come out on Twitter a lot, stating that he's the real, national champion, talking about the history of the NWA National Championship. Look, I'm not trying to discredit this guy, to be honest with you. And for what it's worth, in my opinion, the National Championship has always been something that's been tied to NWA, where NWA has been around for a very, very long time. So I can understand his frustrations, the guy that is currently holding the NWA National title. I don't know what the conversation was here between NWA President Billy Corgan and AEW President Tony Khan. I don't know if these guys had discussed this title or what it meant for both companies, but I'm sure both Billy Corgan and Mr. Tony Khan probably had a sit down and a conversation when it pertains to this concept, if you will, of the AEW National Championship. With that being said, when the title was presented, and when I first actually locked eyes on this title, I'm going to be honest. This AEW National Championship has a lot of similarities of what an NWA Championship would look like. If you look at some of the national, the NWA Championship belts that they currently have in that company, the AEW National Championship has a lot of resemblance to what an NWA World title would look like. To be honest, I'm not sitting here saying that the National Championship from NWA has a lot of similarities to it. No, because if you look at the championship for the NWA National title, it's a red strap with gold, pretty much the United States, in like a gold piece of jewelry, if you will. So there's not really a whole lot of resemblance when it pertains to both these national championships. But when I looked at this title, in my opinion, it had a lot of similarities of like a Jim Crockett Promotions title would look like. An old school NWA, early WCW concept title back in the day. It has a lot of similarities to what it is now. So I don't know if it's a dig at NWA. I know there's a little bit of hostility between NWA and AEW due to the whole Shockwave gimmick that AEW was trying to acquire to have another show for AEW to possibly put on Fox. That was the rumor and speculation, and that did not happen. But I know NWA has been running a Shockwave event for quite some time, because I used to watch NWA's product. I don't watch it anymore, but they used to have the Shockwave name, if you will, for their company, and they used to present, I think it was NWA, it was not NWA Power, but it was another show similar to Power that they were having for NWA Shockwave. I think it was during the pandemic era in pro wrestling. So NWA's kind of had that name for a while, well before AEW was even a thing, in my honest opinion. So, but like I said, I think the negative for me, honestly, would be the fact that, was I shocked with the outcome? No, I think Ricochet, if we're looking at the entire field that came out in that Casino Gauntlet match, I didn't want to see Orange Cassidy win it, because not for nothing, they really didn't do anything with Orange Cassidy when he won the national championship. They really didn't do anything with him. Matt Menard, I don't know why he was in the Casino Gauntlet match. I guess Tony Khan had a wild grass up his ass and was like, you know what, we'll take Matt Menard out of catering and we'll put him in this match just because it's Daniel Garcia. I can give a rat's ass about seeing Matt Menard wrestle ever again in AEW, to be honest with you. A lot of Death Riders in this match, from Daniel Garcia to Wheeler Yuta. Claudio Castagnoli obviously made a big impact in this Casino Gauntlet match as well. So, it wasn't a whole lot of talent in this matchup. I know Bobby Lashley was a favorite to win that match, but I just didn't see Bobby Lashley wrestling on the independents and defending this AEW National Championship. I just did not see that happening. And not for nothing, not even Shelton Benjamin. Ricochet was going to be the guy, because right now Tony Khan is trying to turn chicken shit into chicken salad and put Ricochet in an upper echelon in the main event scene, and what better way to do that than put championship gold around Ricochet's waist and have him be an AEW national champion. So we're going to see how it plays out with Ricochet with this title and what they're actually going to do with it moving forward. So we'll see what happens. The other thing I want to talk about, obviously, as well, we have Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley in this no-holds-barred match. Look, man, there's a lot of people, and I made this abundantly clear after Blood and Guts, that there was a lot of people out there that are content creators or podcasters that talk about pro wrestling, and they know who they are. You guys know who they are. That are not big fans of the constant and continuous blood that is shown in AEW. Obviously, we saw a lot of blood at Blood and Guts, whether it was from the both men's side of things as well as the women's side of things. And some people had some discomforts with that. Or some people don't understand why they use so much blood in these matches. Am I one of those people or one of those content creators that are super pissed off that AEW seemingly has this concept where a lot of matches have to have blood in it? No, I can honestly give a rat's ass about that. Because I told you guys, even at Blood and Guts, that with AEW and the current landscape that they're in at this point, and what we've been getting week in and week out, whether it is Dynamite or Collision, you had to take the small wins when you can. If you're a fan that enjoys that, then obviously it's a small win for you. Me personally, do I mind it? No. My only other stickler with AEW has been the same for the past 2.5 years, is that AEW needs to hire writers and needs to build storylines into this company. Other than that, I can give a rat's ass if there's blood in an AEW match or not. I can understand some people saying, well, we don't need to see blood every single time. No, we don't. But at the same time, it's kind of unreal, if you will, like unrealistic expectations if you think that you're going to watch a match for 40 to 45 minutes not expecting somebody to be busted wide open or wearing the Crimson Mask. Especially if they're in a steel cage match or a Blood and Guts type environment or something like that, or a hardcore match or a match with Darby Allin, or especially Jon Moxley. You're going to most likely see blood in that match. And that's where I get into with Jon Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. Was I a super fan of this matchup? No, I was not. For multiple reasons. Number one, we saw the exact same shit from Moxley and O'Reilly literally in Blood and Guts. I know I might have said something about them last week that had a match or something, but I know we saw O'Reilly and Jon Moxley in a Blood and Guts match, which ultimately set up this little tiny feud here between O'Reilly and Jon Moxley. Was there blood? Yeah, both O'Reilly and Jon Moxley were busted wide open. Moxley comes into the match having a fork in hand, pretty much taking a page out of Abdullah the Butcher, and pretty much, hitting O'Reilly with this fork, which ultimately caused O'Reilly to be busted wide open and be pretty much bleeding all over the mat. Same thing with Jon Moxley. There's not many Moxley matches that you're going to get that does not have blood in it. Jon Moxley, to me, is a hardcore type wrestler, where he would have thrived in like an ECW or an FMW or wrestling for CCW or GCW or whatever have you, that has more of a hardcore type element into their matches. That's who Jon Moxley is. So for those people that are, I don't understand what we're seeing, this is what Jon Moxley is. He is a hardcore wrestler, bro. He's going to do whatever he can in his power to make these matches gruesome, nasty, ugly, and make you honestly be like, what the hell are we watching here with these Jon Moxley matches? Because that is who Jon Moxley is at the end of the day, man. He's a hardcore wrestler. You know what I mean? And a lot of people didn't have a problem with him being hardcore when he was wrestling over in GCW and being the GCW World Champion and so on and so forth. So I don't understand what the issue with Jon Moxley doing this now, to be honest with you. Like I said, I can give a rat's ass about the blood on AEW Dynamite or pay-per-views. If two guys are going to wrestle in a match for 40 to 45 minutes, as well as the women, you're bound to see some kind of blood at some point. It's going to happen. So for those people out there that are crucial about that, I mean, bro, maybe you honestly need to stop watching AEW's product. And I know some people are out there, we don't need blood, we need story. You're right. You're right. But are you going to say the same shit, though, when it pertains to seeing blood in AEW if there was a story? Are those people complaining about the blood because we're not getting story? You know what I mean? Like, how much of seeing blood and no blood really intensify a story or not intensify a story? To me, it doesn't really matter. Because my thing is, there's other ways, even with the blood involved in the match, that you could tell a story. You could look at the situation where Darby Allin and Jon Moxley. I believe it was leading up to WrestleDream where Pac beat the shit out of Jon Moxley pretty much in that little phone booth area where he was Darby and Moxley were talking between a plain glass window like they were in prison, and Pac showed up behind Darby Allin and beat the dog shit out of Darby Allin, where Darby Allin is busted wide open. Again, no one had a problem with that because it told a story. So for those people that are pissed off about seeing the blood and all this other shit, bro, AEW's been kind of doing this same kind of shit now for the past 2 years. But if we get a solid match or any kind of decent build, no offense, bro, take what you can get. If you can't handle it, then maybe you don't need to be watching AEW's product. That's just my opinion. And those people know who they are. You guys know who they are. So I wanted to get that out of the way as well. The Kyle O'Reilly and Jon Moxley match, was it needed? No. To be honest with you, I wasn't a huge fan of this match, not because of the blood situation, but the fact that we literally saw both these guys in Blood and Guts literally doing the exact same shit in this match than what they were doing in Blood and Guts. I think the match was not needed. I don't even know why Kyle O'Reilly really was in a matchup with Jon Moxley, to be honest with you. I feel like it was a filler match, and O'Reilly really wasn't doing shit. Moxley really wasn't doing shit. So I wasn't really too keen on that match, to be honest. With that being said, though, there was some positives. Number one, Statlander and Monet. I told you guys a while back that I thought, in my opinion, that the AEW Women's title was going to be the one championship that was always going to elude Mercedes Monet. It was the one belt that she cannot win. And I was right. She was not able to be successful over Chris Statlander. She ended up taking the L, and Statlander walked out still AEW Women's Champion. I'm not against this at all. Monet, my issue with Monet, and you guys, if you guys been around, you know my issue with Mercedes Monet. So I'm not going to go into full detail with that. But what I will say is this. If Monet walked into Full Gear and walked out not only TBS Women's Champion, but also AEW Women's Champion, she would have held that roster hostage. Because nobody is going to beat Mercedes Monet. And right now she currently holds the TBS title. So her holding also the AEW Women's Championship does nothing at all to benefit the AEW Women's locker room at all. You know, I also saw a little bit of the AEW post show from AEW where Statlander had made comments saying that she was kind of pissed off that a lot of people, kind of undermined her a little bit and thought that she had no chance against Mercedes Monet. This really rubbed Statlander the wrong way. It really did piss her off. And honestly, I don't blame Statlander. I don't. I can understand why people are going to undermine Stat because the way that Monet has been seriously pushed throughout her entire AEW career to a point where she hardly ever takes an L in AEW. So, in one side of the fence, I can understand where Statlander is coming from, where, yeah, I can understand where it's going to piss her off because not only is she AEW Women's Champion defending this title, but it's almost as if you're looking past what she's done in her career leading up to this matchup against Mercedes Monet. It's more or less the AEW Women's Championship going into this match as the underdog in this matchup against the challenger. You know what I mean? Because AEW is pushing Monet to the fucking moon and back. So I can understand her frustrations. And I was happy with the outcome of the match because with Monet not only holding the TBS title, but also possibly holding the AEW Women's Championship, what does that honestly do for the AEW Women's locker room? A locker room right now that is good, is really good. But what does it do when the fact that these women have matches against Mercedes Monet and Monet doesn't want to take a loss? It does nothing. It hurts the women's locker room more than anything. So I was happy with the outcome. I look forward to who's going to challenge Chris Statlander next. I'm hoping we don't run it back with Mercedes Monet and we kind of move on from Mercedes Monet because honestly, for me personally, the Monet experience or experiment, and you will, experiment in AEW, it's not working. It's just not. I think it's cringy. I think it's something where she's going into business for herself, and she is looking to cash out. And what I mean by that is she's going to do whatever she can in AEW to raise her stock, so when her contract's coming up with AEW, she's going back to WWE where she wants to get the money that she wanted last time, if not more, from WWE. And she's trying to make herself more of a household name now in AEW, so she does have the opportunity to go back to WWE as Sasha Banks and make the money as a Charlotte Flair or a Becky Lynch. That's why she's doing what she's doing in AEW. She's not sticking around AEW for the long haul. I can tell you that right now. The other match I want to talk about, which was a good thing, was Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. To me, honestly, going into this match, I thought Briscoe was going to get the win. It was about time that Mark got some acknowledgement for what he's done in AEW. And it was just time. There was nothing else more for Briscoe and Fletcher to do after this matchup. I didn't want to see Briscoe join the Don Callis family. And it was time for Fletcher to drop the TNT title. A title that, honestly, he really wasn't doing a whole hell of a lot with. It wasn't like Kyle Fletcher had this elaborate TNT title run where he defended the TNT title multiple fucking times. He didn't. He was a title holder for a TNT championship that he hardly ever defended. Briscoe winning this title is probably going to be, could possibly be the pinnacle of his career in AEW. Do I see Briscoe being AEW World Champion? I just don't see that. I don't think Tony Khan and the powers that be see a guy like Mark Briscoe being the flag bearer of this company. I just don't see it. Him winning the TNT title might be the highlight of his career when it pertains to AEW, to be honest with you. And something that it's well overdue. And I was very happy with the outcome of the match. I respect the hell out of Mark Briscoe. Obviously he talked about, his brother Jay and his, wrestling family with the conglomeration and the little video package that was played before his match. I thought it was great, man. Mark Briscoe is one of those guys that's severely underrated. I think the Briscoes as a tag team were severely underrated. So I was happy with Briscoe winning the title. I don't think it does anything in the aspects of looking bad on Kyle Fletcher's career. Fletcher, the way that Kyle Fletcher, his progression and what he's done in AEW, Kyle Fletcher is going to be one of those guys that will be carrying this company on their back if AEW does somehow, survive going into a new TV rights deal. Fletcher is the future of this company. He's an incredible athlete. He's an incredible wrestler. He's good on the microphone. And that guy can go, 30, 40 minutes to an hour in an Iron Man match if he really wanted to any given night. 100%. He is the future of this business, just like Takeshita is also the future of AEW. After the Briscoe match that Fletcher had with Briscoe, Fletcher also announced that he will be partaking in the Continental Classic Tournament alongside Takeshita as well as Okada. So it's not like we're not going to see Kyle Fletcher again. It looks like Kyle Fletcher is going to be going after the Continental title against Okada or the Unified Championship in the Continental Classic. So we're just getting started here with Kyle Fletcher. But I thought it was a good match between Fletcher and Briscoe. I was happy with the outcome with Mark Briscoe becoming the TNT champion. The other thing I want to quickly talk about as well is the main event. Adam Page, Samoa Joe, steel cage match for the AEW World title. I'm going to be honest. Was I super excited about this matchup? No, I was not. For two more specific reasons. One, we're running the same match back from the last pay-per-view that we got between Adam Page and Samoa Joe, where Page was successful in defending the AEW World title. Then we get to Full Gear, and we're going to run the same match back, but this time we're going to change the match up in the aspects of adding a steel cage to this matchup between Adam Page and Samoa Joe for the AEW World title. Was the match okay? The match was okay at best. I'm not going to sit here and say the match was great or awesome. The match it did what it had to do. Because at the end of the day, there was really nobody else for Adam Page at that time. AEW has been suffering from a lot of injuries, so Samoa Joe was that guy. Was I surprised with the outcome of the match? Yes, I was. I did not think Adam Page was going to drop the belt to Samoa Joe. With that being said, am I super thrilled and excited the fact that Samoa Joe is once again AEW World Champion? No, I'm not. Because if I'm being brutally honest with you guys, man, I don't think Samoa Joe's title run last time when he had the belt was all that great, or awesome, if you will. I think he did a decent job at best with that title run, but it really wasn't something that I was super excited about. So when Joe won the title, me personally as a fan, I wasn't really too keen on it. I really wasn't super excited until what we saw after the match, where the lights go out, we see Prince Nana standing at the stage, and then we see the return of Swerve. Swerve comes out to the ring, he walks down the ramp, gets in the ring, he ends up attacking the Ops training dojo members, if you will, to pretty much send a message to Samoa Joe and the Ops. The other interesting factor was Adam Page was standing in the same ring, staring down the Ops with Swerve Strickland. So, number one, it's great to see Swerve back. Swerve is one of the aces at AEW, and I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that he's able to wrestle, he's medically cleared, and he's ready to go. But this is going to tell an interesting story if AEW decides to actually tell this story and do it correct. There's a lot of history there between Swerve and Adam Page. A lot of history. And some of the best AEW story and AEW matches of all time have been between both Adam Page and Swerve Strickland, where both of these guys have been on, opposite sides during their AEW career. Now we get a possibility of maybe, just maybe, Swerve and Adam Page working together against the Ops. It's a possibility. We also had Hook involved in this matchup, Shibata, as well as Powerhouse Hobbs. We had Hook pretty much reunite with the Ops by also helping Samoa Joe win the AEW World Title once again. So there should be something here between Swerve, Page, and the Ops, possibly. Am I against it? No. If AEW does this correctly and tells a story, especially diving into the whole history between Adam Page and Swerve Strickland, then it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with Swerve, Page, as well as Samoa Joe. The way things are slowly starting to shape up just after what happened at Full Gear, one or two options are most likely going to happen leading into World's End. We're either going to get Swerve versus Joe for the AEW World Title, or a possible triple threat match here between Swerve, Joe, and Page for the AEW World Title. That's the way it's looking. Because right now, I don't know what MJF is doing. I was hoping that it was MJF that was going to show up at the end of Full Gear. That was not the case. But MJF, at least what I know right now, still holds on to an AEW title, world title contract that he's still yet to sign, from what I understand. So I don't know if MJF's going to play into this or how this is going to come about, but we're going to see how this is going to play out. So I thought that was probably one of the best things that happened at AEW's Full Gear. So, again, excited to see Swerve and excited to see what happens on Dynamite. Hopefully we hear some kind of rebuttal from Swerve on this week's episode of Dynamite right before Thanksgiving. But like I said, man, all in all, was this pay-per-view the best? No. To be honest with you, this is one of those pay-per-views for AEW that, not for nothing, it wasn't the best. Lack of build hurt this pay-per-view. We got the same matches seemingly from the last pay-per-view going into this pay-per-view. So it really wasn't something that a lot of fans, I think, were really super, super excited about because we already seen this at the last pay-per-view. But I'm also on the same boat that I've been on for a while now when it pertains to AEW, man. There needs to be a change. There needs to be a shot in the arm for this company. There needs to be a hard reset for AEW, hopefully going into 2026, because they need it. There's a lot of things right now. If you're an AEW fan right now, there's a lot of things with this company that just at the very moment is up in the air. We don't even know if this company is going to survive after Warner Brothers Discovery gets sold. We have no idea. Right now, we know there's 3 suitors right now that are trying to acquire the rights of Warner Brothers Discovery, the company that showcases Dynamite and Collision, and those companies are as follow. It's Comcast, it's Netflix, it's also Paramount Plus. Those are the 3 companies that are in talks, if you will, or put out bids to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. Well, I told you guys this last week that it's going to be very telling to see who ends up buying Warner Brothers Discovery and who Warner Brothers Discovery actually sells to. Because, to me, in my opinion, if Netflix ends up purchasing Warner Brothers Discovery, it's going to be a huge, huge problem for AEW. Because I do not see AEW working in the same vicinity as WWE. Meaning that we already know that Netflix is showcasing Monday Night Raw every single Monday night. And that Netflix is paying WWE a lot of money and is pretty much in bed with WWE for many, many years moving forward, showcasing Monday Night Raw. I'd be shocked as all hell. I think anybody would be genuinely shocked if we not only saw Monday Night Raw on Netflix, but we also saw the likes of Dynamite and Collision also on Netflix. I don't see that happening at all. Comcast, if they decide to buy them, would I be against it? No. The one that's actually genuinely making me interested and sparking interest in me for this possible sale would be Paramount Plus. Because right now, Paramount Plus is only showcasing, or will be showcasing, UFC events on Paramount Plus. There's no Monday Night Raw or SmackDown currently on the Paramount Plus platform. So technically, there's no wrestling on Paramount Plus. But the issue with that is TKO owns UFC. TKO also has pretty much ownership as well as WWE. So it's going to be telling to see if Paramount Plus comes in and they're able to showcase AEW's product or are willing to do that. So it's kind of, AEW right now is on shaky grounds. Tony Khan really hasn't made comments about it yet because right now, like I said, everything right now genuinely is up in the air when it pertains to AEW. So I think going into 2026, especially once we find out who actually is going to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery, it's going to be very telling to see the future of where AEW might end up, if there is a future or if there possibly is no future for AEW. And that would be catastrophically bad, just for the entire wrestling community, to be honest with you, if there is no more AEW, in my honest opinion. I don't want to see them pack up and fold shop, and that's it. I've seen that with WCW growing up, and I hated it. I don't want to see the same results happen to AEW, or the same possible future for AEW that happened with WCW. You know, they get bought out or whatever. Hopefully that does not happen with AEW and AEW's product. But again, right now things are immensely up in the air for AEW. No one genuinely knows what's going to happen or what's going to be the fate of AEW moving forward, especially going into the new year. We have no idea. So with that being said, I mean, I told you guys before, man, if you are a fan of AEW or a fan of AEW's product, you had to take the small wins when you can, because nothing is forever, man. No one knows if this company is going to last another 5-10 years. We have no idea. We don't. You know what I mean? So when you see that small win as a fan that you enjoy, man, take it and run with it. Honestly. Because the past 2.5 years of AEW has been very, very, up and down, man. It's been kind of shaky for AEW as of late, as far as getting fans intrigued for their shows, getting the fans excited to purchase their pay-per-views, and it's tough, man. I mean, do I honestly believe that AEW Full Gear was worth $50? No, I do not. I don't. I would say maybe 35, maybe 40 tops. But I damn sure can tell you right now that I don't think the pay-per-view itself was worth $50 fucking. I just don't. There's no build, there's no storyline, there's no intrigue going into these AEW pay-per-views as of late. There's just not. And yeah, it has a lot to do with injuries. Injuries are definitely hindering this company right now. It's messing up creative. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why we had no announcements besides the pretty much at Full Gear when it pertains to the Continental Classic, because Tony Khan is worried that some of these superstars will get injured and then they couldn't fill out the slots to fill out a Continental Classic tournament. And right now on paper, we only have 3 names that are entered into this tournament, which is Takeshita, Fletcher, and Okada. That's it. And from what I understand, the Continental Classic literally starts this week on Dynamite, a day before Thanksgiving. So, again, they got to start finding names to fill in those slots for the Continental Classic tournament. We just can't have 3 guys in this tournament. The same 3 guys that are in the Don Callis family. I told you guys before when it pertains to Don Callis family, I don't know why they are pumping the brakes on the possibility of having a match between Takeshita and Okada. I just don't. I mean, there's already been, I think, rumors of speculation that Okada is Tanahashi's last opponent for Tanahashi's run in New Japan Pro Wrestling, his retirement match. I mean, I would have probably sweetened the pot and probably had a title versus title match between Takeshita and Okada, to be honest with you. It just kind of intensified the match between Okada and Takeshita, where, let's say, Takeshita somehow beats Okada. Okay. Well, then Takeshita then is now the Unified Championship as well as the New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship, where you're going to see both titles on New Japan Pro Wrestling. It does nothing to Okada going into this matchup against Tanahashi, because the match itself writes itself. The history that both Okada and Tanahashi have, and the fact that this is Tanahashi's retirement match possibly. So it does nothing for Okada, especially due to the fact that Okada really hasn't done jack shit with that Unified Championship. You know what I mean? The other good thing, too, like I possibly mentioned earlier, was Kenny Omega possibly reuniting with the Young Bucks. Look, man, I'll tell you guys the truth, and I've been saying this shit for the past few months, that AEW needs to possibly do some things or go back to doing some things that brought them to the dance. And one of them is the Young Bucks. Going back to what they once were, the Super Kick Party, the Elite, teaming up once again with Kenny Omega. I think this is something that a lot of AEW fans have been patiently waiting for when it pertains specifically more or less to Matt and Nick Jackson from the Young Bucks. We're tired of the heel Young Bucks. I don't think it's working anymore. I think it's run its course. I think it's time to go back to what brought you guys to the dance, being the Young Bucks, the Young Bucks that fans loved and were gravitated towards. The Young Bucks recently brought back being the Elite again. This was something that they were doing with Kenny Omega and Cody Rhodes and other, New Japan talent they were doing when they were in New Japan before AEW was even a thing. And now they're bringing it back again, and maybe they'll bring it back with not only the Young Bucks, but also Kenny Omega. Maybe Adam Page will also be a part of this and reunite the original Elite. Again, this is something that I think will be good for the fans and good for both the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega to reunite these guys as the Elite. They come back with the Super Kick party. They attack the Don Callis family, which, again, is a huge undertaking considering the fact of how many people are in the Don Callis family. Right now, we just have Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson, and maybe Jurassic Express. So they might set up a feud here between the Elite and the Don Callis family. But I was excited about that. There was obviously the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega have a lot of history when it pertains to AEW's Full Gear. So again, I'm happy for a possible reunion with the Elite, and we'll see how that plays out. But like I said, man, at the end of the day, was this one of the best AEW pay-per-views that we've seen? No, absolutely not. Was it the worst? No. I mean, I've seen many matches in AEW that were the worst. I mean, we all remember the horrific barbed wire exploding death match that we all saw, which that might go down as one of the most embarrassing matches in all of pro wrestling history, to be honest with you. So obviously there was some worse times and worse matches in AEW's history. If you guys go back and watch the product as far as I do in the very beginning, you all remember that damn match. That was just god awful. But at the end of the day, man, there needs to be change. You know what I'm saying? There needs to be something that we can go back to and bring a little limelight back to AEW. They need a shot in the arm, man. Whether it's a reunion of the Elite, MJF coming back as the devil, if you will, or when he used to wear the mask, and there was a lot of backstage antics and attacks and shit like that. That's the MJF that we need. We need excitement. We need the where, the when, and the why to get the fans excited week in and week out for AEW television. That's what we need. Tony Khan needs to invest in story, maybe bringing in some writers to actually get the fans excited about AEW's product. Because like I told you before, man, the way that they're booking AEW Dynamite as of late has a lot of resemblance to All Japan Pro Wrestling, where there is no story and it's the best versus the best. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't really work over here. Number one. Number two, a lot of fans have been patiently waiting for a solid story. I mean, you got to understand, at one time, AEW told some of the best stories in all pro wrestling. Stories with MJF and Chris Jericho, Sting's retirement match, Darby Allin stories with Sting through Darby's career. You know what I mean? The JAS, the Inner Circle. You know what I mean? The Stadium Stampede storylines. You know what I'm saying? Like, hell, MJF and Cody Rhodes. And that story. MJF and Wardlow. Like, we had stories, bro. Swerve and Adam Page. And that story they told. And the hostility they both had against each other. Why can't we go back to having a little bit more story, getting the fans intrigued to not only want to watch AEW's product, but also spend $50 a pop for these pay-per-views to have them watch something that's intriguing. You know what I mean? To get them invested in the product. That's what we want, man. I think everybody that I've talked to personally that's a wrestling fan, man, has been patiently waiting for AEW to hit the reset button or get a shot in the arm to change a little bit of what this company's doing right now. You know what I mean? Because I think with everything going on right now, I think that right now AEW's, I don't know. It's not looking good. I'll say that. Things need to change. We need to get back to what brought us to the dance. And while, yeah, there were some things that were bad at Full Gear, there were some things I enjoyed, most notably the return of Swerve Strickland. But with that being said, though, man, this is my review of AEW's Full Gear. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.